Alrighty, daily trading recap. Let's get after it. To Christ be the glory, huh? We had just another day of showing up, another day of just learning, and certainly not going to make $1 million in one day, especially at the rate I'm going. And that's the key to my understanding with each day that I come to the market, but also just keeping the open perspective of what can I learn from today and how can I push myself harder today. So stepping into a little bit more of the realm of equities again that I have since I've gotten into this little futures role, still keeping my involvement with a little bit of playing some data marks on 1 minute perspectives on the S&P 500 through the modalities of ES and MES today, and just fooling around with those strategies. And that's always been fun. I'm still continuing to do it, still going to put some resources mentally into that as well. I still believe there is value, but gosh, it's just, I think it's with everything too. There's always a reality and a backside to when you first look at it and it's just this euphoria and it seems like this most awesome, beautiful thing. And then as you just kind of like keep pursuing it more and pushing it harder, like pushing it through the ringer is what these strategies really need with everything that I do in trading career and especially in life. Of everything needs to be battle tested. And if they have faults, then they need to be found and fixed at that point. And that's the same thing having to do with these strategies. So if it's that just huge drawdown all those times of just like coming in with all these awesome and great ideas and testing them and putting through the back testing and this awesome strategy analyzer through NinjaTrader. And then they just don't end up looking so great as they initially did. Or just sometimes like the little frustrations of the complications of even working that system that they don't work out how they're supposed to and trying to figure out that system sometimes. But that's neither here nor there. 3 tickers that I was trading today and looking at one for tomorrow that we'll get into here. Want to talk about some market dollar volume internals on the day. Nasdaq $227 billion volume as of an hour and 11 minutes after the close here. NYSE $348 billion volume. OTC's $3 billion volume trading on the day. I mentioned with the futures trading still going after that 1 minute, that 9:30 initial opening of the market. Still offers some pretty consistent and profitable opportunity with trading a automated trading strategy that way. But still fine tuning that with the automation and when I'm exactly getting filled based on the ticks and what I'm looking for there. And then still some other opportunities just based on the broad kind of random selection of data of identifying individual 1 minute candles that offers some strangely weird, consistent opportunities with minimal downside. I wrote in my journal today that I definitely want to talk about today too. And I think I alluded it to a little bit yesterday in the introduction of focusing more so on the potential loss before getting into the trade or strategy versus just falling in love with the euphoria and hit rate, which I think I most definitely did initially from the get-go when I started pursuing a spread trade, volatility trade on the S&P 500 with the futures and not really factoring in the downside whatsoever. I was swept away with that beautiful, like 99% hit rate or whatever, just huge, awesome hit rate that I was pursuing and saying, okay, I can get a repeatable, X amount of profit on this type of hit rate. And then I was saying, okay, well, the downside is going to be like absolutely huge on the days that it doesn't work. And it's going to almost potentially wreck the entire strategy for the risk reward that comes out those days. And really not even factoring that in, saying, okay, yeah, but the 95% hit rate, the 99% hit rate, and just falling in love with that almost and not taking in the full breadth of the picture to say, is this actually profitable? Is this a viable strategy? And then just getting some unfortunate little breaks and getting a slap in the face with the harsh reality of what futures trading is and how quickly. It is just a very different modality than kind of cutting losses quickly. Still the same idea, obviously, but of much different risk-reward outcome that I was anticipating or really that I understood that I was getting myself into when I was trying to do the little micro scalps or stupidity trading that I was doing that way. But definitely learning from experience, paying the stupid taxes with each growing day. So we're getting there eventually. We're running out of ways to make mistakes. So I think that's the biggest, and just continuing to make tiny crawls with our fingernails, just clawing as close as we can, still progressing forward. That is just everything I am pursuing, just continuing to go forward and forward and forward and push and push and push. Because standing still is going backwards. And I know that for certainty, the longer that I can stay in this game, if I'm just looking at it based on a probability perspective, which I am definitely pursuing just based on probability, the longer I stay in this game, the better chance I have to make it where I want to go. So doing now with everything in my purpose to maintain myself in the game, keep playing the game. That's what I am pursuing. So that's all I wanted to reference with that. I'll start off with GFAI on the day. Third day play. Again, a little bit preemptive move here in pre-market, and I think that is the play on these second days. This one offered a little bit more spikeage and a little bit more volatility on the second day here after it had a harder sell-off on that first day. But even that same philosophy, if it gets that hold or any amount of supporting price action within a tunnel or a range into after hours, I do think that is a play, and I'll show that on RCAT as well, that I do think has the potential to do a similar thing at the end that I mentioned here, getting to RCAT. But having that little preemptive spike and a hard, these are the ones where you would have to have limit orders in if we can even trade at this time of who the heck is up at that time. Certainly not me with this new daylight savings time now. That's for certain. But having, again, almost double topping here in this pre and then offering just as soon as market opens 2 minute candles to 1 minute candles that perk just above that 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 mark. That was really the only, and I'm going to show, it's almost kind of similar to CTK, which was a similar type of move that, as I mentioned in the introduction, of wanting to pursue more of a focus on the potential loss versus the potential reward, finding those trades and basing those trades off of opportunities where the loss is just going to be so minimal, but the reward doesn't have to be so exponentially awesome either. But getting into the mind frame that, okay, what could I potentially lose from entering this trade? And that being the forefront of the trade, as compared to how I did it a little bit with this one, getting it a little bit chasey. I didn't write down the number of shares I was taking, but pretty small, not considerable. I think that would max out at 200 shares for a position size there. Starting in small, this was really the last point of a decent entry of getting in as it was still holding, putting in a higher low off of this sell-off from that initial morning spike, filling in above 115 there, I think, for the first little share, and then selling as it was kind of petering at 1-2, saying, okay, if that was the only move for that, I really want to see this. I wanted to see this thing breaking to new high of days pretty much immediately and picking up steam with that type of volume it was producing in that little candle as well. But as it was holding, I was saying, okay, I think, and watching the level 2 time and sales, I'm thinking, 1-2 is looking like it's going to break on the ask, sizing with another. I think this was that 200 share size that I sized up to for that position. But then as I'm fiddling around with the shares and trying to adjust my order entry window, then sure enough, it wasn't actually going to break through, and it actually rejected off of there. So I said, shoot, okay, I'm understanding that I was in the wrong, so let's cut it before it gets even uglier. This is going against what I thought the trade idea should be, so that is the time to get out. It's not doing what I thought it was going to be doing. Let's get out. And putting in another higher low here, thought it was clinging to VWAP still for the low float that it is, 9 million floater, 22 million market cap. They still, also for reference, they've got $8 million shelf from December of 2021 and like 15 plus million in warrants, with also factoring in GFAIW. So just keeping that in mind of nothing is ever, not trying to force more out of a chart than is there, but saying, gosh, I think it is just holding up a little bit too well for me to think that this trend or play is potentially over. Getting back in with 20 shares, this entry was here. It actually breaks to a new high off of this relative high above that 120 mark, but not to a new high of day and market hours. Still looking for that 124, giving it all the room in the world to sell off and fake out as many people as it did. And with the small size that I have, I definitely felt I had more opportunity to do so. And then setting my risk very appropriately. I did that even before really this base was in of 107 again. And that truly was the signifier once it broke to the downside of there that there was going to be no more upside or craziness for this third day surge play for the rest of the remaining market hours today. So that was really all that was on that one. Taking loss in total, yeah, for sure. But not major whatsoever, and still keeping with trying to size in on appropriate, push myself to take larger position size on these types of trades and push myself harder, even though it wasn't the most optimum of entry places to be like slam dunk entry places to be giving myself A pluses for grades on execution. Still keeping myself within parameters and giving myself the best opportunity possible with those and cutting losses quickly for sure. Identifying key areas to be in and to be out. That was GFAI. Go to HYMC now. Absolute crazy sell-off in the market hours today. News catalyst today for this bad boy. The daily did have some run-up, some crazy run-ups here these past few trading days. But news catalyst today, they did have a $56 million private placement from the guy from AMC, I think, and also somewhere else. But yeah, just for reference again, American Gold and Silver Mining Company. They still have a lot of remaining warrants, and the 424B5 out today as well of $50 million ATM, and then they also have still another $500 million shelf from June of 2021. So a lot of overhead in this thing to add to the dilution factor. But again, it's just when and where does it come out? We can have that information and knowledge, but is it going to act or come about within this singular time span of trading? Is it going to come today? Is it going to come in the next month? It's kind of all up in the air. I wish we had that camera focused in on those people. If they were pushing the button at that specific time, that'd be an awesome live camera to see. But yeah, we just don't have that insider information to know if that's going to be actually there. But sure enough, there was something there to support this huge amount of selling just immediately from the get-go. Took a very, very small $484 size trade for a dip buy as it was selling off within that first 3 minutes, looking for any amount of basing as it was showing support with volume for a potential just quick little reversal. Got in 242, just under 242 as it was reversing there. It was kind of petering still under VWAP. Profit target looking like I was going to be absolutely thrilled if it returned to 2.6 as a 10% little trade opportunity there. Get the perspective right here. There we go. But as it's petering still under VWAP, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to take at least half off here at 245 as it was just still struggling to very quickly reverse. And the leash that I had on this one, as from experience on charts like this that say, on dip buys especially, if it starts to reverse, it's going to go very badly. So able to get a nice little sell of 5 cents above, or 3 cents above, of where I initially got filled, and even fill the rest of those remaining shares just barely above at 242, where my entry was 24199 on those last 100 remaining shares before it just absolutely tanked and fell off, continuing to just dump and die for the rest of the morning session there. Not really any huge or identifiable beautiful marks of a dip buy opportunity on that one. Very, very minimal scalps that I could see a lot of other people getting in and being part of, similar to what I was doing there on that initial one. But just, yeah, keep my eye to it for the opportunity and volume that was traded on the day. I want to check just for reference, how much volume was traded on the day. Actually, $630 million volume. I'm showing the day over 500,000 trades on HYMC today. Very nice just being a part of it and scalping and taking these little micro profits and putting myself in a position of power, even when it is not a beautiful trade. That's definitely what I want to be pursuing. And like I alluded to with the introduction a little bit for GFAI, but of pursuing trades like this, not dip buys specifically. Of course, they are very nice strategies, but of strategies, trades that offer an extremely short risk. I mean, just pursuing trades that I can absolutely 100% identify the risk and reward on the same side and say, I'm entering this trade on my terms. I'm identifying and seeing the level. And if this thing should go against me, I know the exact point at which to get out. And it was right there. So, yeah, 100%. I like pursuing that. I'll get into CTK as well. Similar type of thing of just pursuing, even if the trade isn't as probable, even if that risk or even if that reward is a little less opportune, still pursuing that extremely small risk factor of putting the loss in mind first before anything else, before even viewing the risk of what could I potentially lose on this one, and understanding the speed and volatility at which this could go against me, keeping all those factors in mind before I'm even falling in love or just kind of believing the hype of the euphoria of this thing potentially reversing and going, this thing's going to $10 today, intraday. Just understanding what the chart is saying and trading what is there, not what somebody else told me is or is not there. That is definitely one of my rules, but trading what is there. So that was HYMC. Gave myself a grade of C for the idea and A grade for execution of trading on that not so incredible opportunity, but still getting in and out like a sniper. That was pretty awesome to be part of on HYMC CTK. Last one here for little traders. First green day. News catalyst today, they had Q4 earnings in 2021 and 2021 earnings, and then another board of directors guy buying some shares, decent amount of shares with his own money. And this reminded me of the quote from Brian Shin, and I don't know if he got it from somewhere else, but of insider selling can happen for many different reasons, for many different times, but insider buying usually happens for one reason, obviously. So just kind of keeping that in mind of, okay, why is this guy buying? Using this as a potential indicator for some opportunity on the stock. Incredibly not beautiful, downtrending daily, keeping that in mind and perspective as well. But this was the chart too that, oh gosh, I just, seeing this one pop up on the scanner in my initial, when I was first opening up the computer, watching it, saying, okay, it's kind of developing some levels here. We'll see if anything else happens from it. And then, of course, I'm doing other Excel data spreadsheets or looking at other scanner stuff. And gosh, I barely just missed this little block here, taking it from just above the 2.5 range to before we opened, just right around that 28 cent area. That was so beautiful. Trading off of this little 25 hold here, and that 25 area certainly became the factor for market hours before it just dumped hard with this bigger volume candle breaking to the downside there. I was playing another similar to HYMC, not as quick or as volatile of a trade, but of thought we were seeing a bigger wall of bidders step in on that 26 mark. So using that kind of leverage is saying, leverage is not the appropriate word, but that was one that come to mind of, okay, if we're basing around 26 and we start to bounce off of there and there's more buyers at 25 that didn't really get filled and it's holding decently, they're going to see like, gosh, okay, it missed me coming down to 25. Now I've got to step myself up and try to chase this thing a little bit more, and we could produce some closer action to get this thing to at least VWAP, if not anywhere to a new high of day above that 29.8 high on that second minute candle there. But again, like I said on HYMC, a very, very quick, I did get a pretty crappy fill. As I was watching it around 26, I'm saying, okay, that's a nice point of entry. And then sure enough, as I'm pushing that buy, the bid button, it jumps to 26.3. So I'm getting filled kind of at the top of this little range here. It's neither here nor there. It's not the destruction of the trade, but just unfortunate for the fill that I got on that. But then I'm saying like I was alluding to with HYMC, of pursuing these style of trades that, should this go against me, how much could I potentially lose on this trade? Minimum. Like, this is such an easy, and because of that fact too, this is the 26 mark and not that 25 rounder number where I know for certain, judging from pre-market, that there's going to be huge amount of volume, looking at that as a support level if it should break there, as it showed also during that specific candle, 948 it shows for me, of, okay, now it's not going to just like fall off and there's going to be no bids and I'm going to be chasing and exit selling into weakness. I do have a little bit of opportunity here, and I think it could be holding some, so let's throw it at it. Sure enough, it did not work, but I'm not trying to be right. I'm just trying to collect money from there. Like, if it did offer any amount of little dip and start to trend closer to VWAP, that is just, for me, a beautiful little trade. Not a 10% awesome, really even what I would consider a beautiful single, but taking this thing here and letting it then develop, being in this trade from a position of power on my terms, is so much better of a trade than anything I was going to be doing, of trying to chase this thing similar to like a GFAI. If this thing did reclaim, I'm taking it back to GFAI, and then me trying to be chasey and look for the breakout intraday here of any price action that way. I think this was a far better pursuit, and this one just did offer a little bit more obvious of a technical level to be a part of as compared to GFAI, which it probably could have picked a way better entry of trading on this trend line. But in the same regard, yeah, this is definitely what I want to be pursuing, like on HYMC and CTK, of being in the trades on my terms and identifying what the potential loss could be, what is going to be my risk on this trade first before anything else. Becoming a better loser in my trading career is definitely what I want to be pursuing. C grade, give myself for the idea, I could give myself even a D. It just was not there whatsoever. Like, offered a little tiny bounce as it was showing off of that 26 mark to where I got filled at 26.3. But yeah, just absolutely tanked off there. And the C grade for execution, just for how I got filled and getting a little bit of slippage just before the exit there for 25.93, exiting just below that 26 mark. So that was CTK. Those were all the tickers that I truly traded for the morning session. Now still looking at RCAT as it's popping up on my scanners here going into tomorrow. Puerto Rican drone company, they got a mid 30 million float. News catalyst on that first day was they got selected by the Army, U.S. Army, for their short range drone program. Something seems pretty cool. They do have some convertible shares, a little bit of shelfage going on. So we'll keep and put our hopes and dreams and reliance on that they're not going to just dump that overnight. But it's going to be short sale triggers going into tomorrow, and I think based on these third-day plays, having at least some position size from the previous trading day going into that third day does allow for better position of power to be sitting from, and opportunity even within that pre-market of the following day tomorrow to be sitting from. Even if it doesn't offer anything during market hours, I still think this is a nice little opportunity. And for how it was trading today too, it's obviously just putting in higher lows, closing closer to VWAP. It was under VWAP for the majority of the day, but I'm still putting in higher lows as a rest day, not anywhere near the same volume that it traded on that first day. But that's what we like to see. So we'll see if that tomorrow does offer any craziness. Will be interesting. It's only 20 shares that I have now from 230. I think I got filled whatever I pushed there for this after hours. So we'll see if any levels develop tomorrow to be putting in more size to base myself off of a trade during pre-market there as well, but still having this trade idea as well to coincide along with that. Also keeping an eye on MULN for this little multi-day move. I think some guys were trying to actually play this today. I think Art of War was actually one of them. But like number 7 said, let's get the right perspective here of, this could be just a little bit more drawn out. And the kind of lower high that I put in today makes me think that the next few days could produce some lower lows based off of this little technical range, close under 1.5 potentially. But should another breakout, we hold these levels around 1.4 maybe, or 1.3 even, start to find a base around there, that could be a good swing time frame of maybe 2 to 3 days, looking for basing off of there, and then reclaim to be testing these 1.6 to 1.9 levels again, looking for the true breakout above that $2 for price to be holding above there for a multi-day move off of that. Still pretty terrible downtrending daily, but if the volume's there, price is the only thing that matters. So that is all I had. I sincerely thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.